Hey everyone, it's Carroll Moon with KidFit here. We're back with another role model interview with Coach Keith Rose from Lynchburg, Virginia. He is a coach at Liberty Christian Academy and has been coaching youth for a long time and had a great playing career as a youth in high school as well. He'll tell you about that as we get into this interview. First, I do want to tell you a little bit about KidFit. We have a training facility in Lynchburg, Virginia, bringing training to kids and providing mentoring and opportunities for kids that perhaps they wouldn't otherwise have. We don't turn any kids away. Long term, we're going to have camps. We're also sponsoring teams. We started with a 7-on-7 12U football team this year. So please check us out. You can see our Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook all there. So without further ado, let's hop into this interview with Coach Keith. Okay, great. This is Carroll Moon from KidFit here with Coach Keith Rose, also from KidFit. Coach Rose, thanks for doing this with me. I'm excited for everybody to meet our trainers.
Oh, no worries.
So tell me about your athletic career growing up.
Sure, I don't know if I label it necessarily as a career, but I played sports, every sport pretty much as a kid growing up. I started playing soccer probably first. I ran around the field, played some goalie, did pretty well at that. Played a lot of t-ball and baseball. They were probably my best sport was baseball. I was a better baseball player than any other sport, but I guess probably when I was maybe 8 or 9, I signed up for football, and my mom, she signed me up. We went to my first practice, and I remember a coach, saying, "Hey, who wants to play quarterback?" So raised my hand, and from that day forward, for a while, I played quarterback. It was, football has always been a passion for me. So I loved it. Even prior to that, I was just waiting for the time to play football because. I was like, well, it's too dangerous. You gotta get a little bit older. And finally, I was old enough to play, and it was an awesome feeling. So, I started playing there. I was a, pretty good player. I was always an all-star player in, soccer and baseball, and always in my little league all-stars. Played, ahead usually 2 years. I, ended up playing with an entire family. My coach Fletcher played with his oldest son, his middle son, and his daughter because I was up at their level so long and at the max level. And I played 1 year after that at Babe Ruth, and for whatever reason I lost my passion for baseball. It just wasn't me, and maybe it's just because my love for football had grown so much, and pretty much that's all I wanted to do. So I played youth football up until I was able to play in high school. Broke my collarbone my freshman year, so I think I played maybe 1 or 2 scrimmages. I think my first carry in high school was a 90-some yard, boot run for a touchdown, which was pretty awesome for first freshman high school play. I think maybe the second scrimmage in Washington Lee in Arlington, I was reaching for the end zone and kind of tripped over my own feet out of bounds, landed on my collarbone, broke my collarbone, and so I was in for a few plays after that, and we called a pitch play, and my arm went up over my head, and I kind of passed out there, and the trainer came out and asked, what's wrong, whatever, and started feeling on my collarbone. And she's like, "Yeah, you got a broken collarbone." And I said, "Well, how many plays am I out?" She said, "Probably 6 or 8 weeks worth." So that was the end of my freshman year. My sophomore year, I played varsity. Quarterback was a backup quarterback. I probably played in 5 or 6 games, including a regional that we lost in. But in that time, we were a fairly decent sized school in Northern Virginia, so playing varsity as a sophomore was a little, different at that time than maybe it is now. My senior year, I moved to Pennsylvania, played football there, lived with my grandma for various reasons, part of it being kind of a teenager and that kind of stuff. And so I got away, went to Southwest Pennsylvania, played football there. Tri-Valley High School, no longer called that. I think it's Albert Gallatin again now. But we weren't a very good team. We played a lot of good teams. We were in Southwest PA, some of the best teams around, but we weren't very good. So there wasn't a whole lot of, there was really no recruiting. My mom did any kind of recruiting there was, and she had found some opportunities for me possibly to play at small schools up there. And maybe, the preferred walk-on at Penn State. But, I kind of ended up at Liberty, thinking I was going to play. But when I got here, I kind of worked out, never really pursued playing football like I probably should have. I'm not going to say that it's a regret, because it was my path. That just wasn't my path. But, looking back, I would probably, the experiences that I probably missed during that, I maybe wish I would have pushed through, but, I didn't. So that was kind of, the end of that part of it. Afterward, I continued to play a lot of football. I played in various men's flags leagues, and the passion for the game has always been there. That kind of will summarize my playing career.
And you were a speed guy too back then. You told me about some camps you were a speed guy. You've always been a speed guy, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I love to run. I was fast. I can't ever remember losing in a race, and I always give my son a hard time now. He's fast, but. I just don't remember losing in races. When coming up through elementary school, we had field days and all that kind of stuff too. And I was always, fastest in the 100, fastest. Anybody challenged me, I wanted to race them. That was something I loved. So I never really had any training or anything like that. I was going to run track in high school, and our warm up was to run long distances, and that was not for me. So that was the end of my track career. I'm not a long distance runner. I love to sprint. So,
what about coaching? You've been coaching forever, I know. Can you tell me about that?
Sure. I mean, as a kid, even I kind of was always that guy. Once raise your hand at quarterback, you kind of become like a pseudo coach at that point in time. So, I mean, even as a kid, I was the only child. I would draw up plays in my basement with coins. Quarters against pennies, and we would run plays through there. So I've always kind of had that mindset. As a coach, when I played video games, it was never just to play of games. I mean, before they had stats on the games, I think it was a 10-yard fight. I used to write my stats down, my rushing stats, passing stats. I mean, it's just the game itself, and just it was always been something I love. So I did that. I guess when I got out of college, I coached a few youth teams in Springfield, Virginia, at the youth club that I grew up playing in. It's kind of interesting. You're fairly young. We coached these kids that were younger. It was fun. It was a good time. I mean, we're probably, moderate to above average teams. We weren't kind of stacked. Some of the teams we just came out of nowhere, and there were other teams that had been kind of building for a while. So we didn't necessarily get the pick of the litter or even know the kids. I believe I was away in Hawaii during the kind of the even tryouts and that kind of stuff. So I didn't even know really what we were getting. We had good success there. It was a great coaching experience. My work was really kind of busy. I traveled a good bit after that, so I really didn't coach a whole lot again until my oldest son was born. Once he was born and got to kind of that age, the love and the ability to coach him came out. So I started coaching in his flag teams. I coached on his basketball teams, and then into his youth tackle teams. So started picking up there, coached that, and then I was given the opportunity to coach a middle school. Coach took I was always pretty much known as a fairly aggressive, coach, and pretty loud, and competitive. So, coach took a chance and said, hey, I'm gonna bring this guy on, and my first year I coached special teams, wide receivers and DBs for King George Middle School. And we had a lot of success. I mean, we were, I think we were maybe a kind of 500 team that year. But, we really had a lot of success on special teams. My units did pretty well. The following year, I was made offensive coordinator. So I kind of, I'd always, in the meantime, I've been studying the game, always never really got that far away from that part of the game. So I would attend Glazier clinics and all that. So I ended up running into the Carnegie Mellon folks there. And went up to one of their camps, and actually came the next year to one of their at-school camps, and kind of adopted a lot of. I was a wing T quarterback, so I always believed in multiple plays, looking the same. So I adopted a lot of how they kind of modernized some of the wing T stuff, how they put it in the shotgun, or how they did some things with jet. And their formations weren't standard wing T formations, which I kind of liked. I love the wing T concepts, but I kind of like the idea of moving things out and spreading it out and being able to throw the ball a little bit more too. So our offense was really successful the following year. I think my first year offensive coordinator, we were 7-1. We lost our first game to kind of the team we had never beat. Close game, we lost. It just didn't go our way. But on the season, I believe I'm not even sure the numbers, but it was quite a separation, our scoring versus other teams scoring. We scored a lot of points. I think we averaged probably 25 to 30 points in 8-minute quarter games in middle school, you know. So it was a successful offense. Next year, came back as the offense coordinator again, and you know we went on to have an undefeated season. 8-0. We scored over 500 points that year. I'm not exactly sure the stats, but I think we averaged 45, 50 points a game in 8-minute quarters, and at times with the entire running clock in the second half. So it was fun. It was a good time. We had a lot of good players, but I think in general I'm kind of known for maybe having a moderate team and trying to push and getting the most out of that team. I don't necessarily always have the most talented teams. I have talent, but I kind of pride myself on maximizing the gains by every player. Great players are always going to continue to work hard and great, but can you make a kid that's maybe marginal push himself? And and I kind of judge where those guys end up at the end of the year. For myself as a coach. During that same time, I kind of I started an AAU program in King George called King George Youth Elite. And in our first year, our 12U team went to nationals, and we made it to the quarterfinals on a Saturday and lost. We were a pretty successful team. We beat a lot of established AAU programs that I think were kind of taken by surprise. But we had a lot of good players, a lot of hard workers, and a lot of good coaches. And we had a very good, successful run that year. The next year, we were kind of a above 500 team. For that team, our 8U team lost in the state championship. So we kind of lost the 12U state championship one year and the 8U the next year. But we had some good success, and it was a good time.
And you're going to do a little bit of high school work this year, right?
Yeah, I'm going to help out with the local school here, Liberty Christian Academy. I'm probably going to work a little bit with the middle school, a little bit with the high school. I can never really get too far away. When I moved down here a few years ago, I guess 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago now, I kind of took a year off from coaching and let both of my boys just play, kind of on their own, and for me to kind of get a break because I was coaching 4 teams at a time, and it was kind of draining. So I took a break, but ended up helping with a local organization, Timberlake Lions, here for a couple of years with my younger son, and the bug has never really gone away, so it just kind of takes breaks in and different opportunities come and I jump right back in.
That's awesome, man. It's a good segue talking about Liberty Christian. I know your faith is really important to you. Why is Jesus so important to you?
Jesus is important to me. Basically, we are because he is. He understands, our burdens. He has, taken our sin, our afflictions, our shortcomings, our imperfections, and washed them clean on the cross, and with that, given us an opportunity for, the greatest gift of all, eternal life. There is no better gift than that. So I don't know what more we could ask for. I know in November of 2009, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, and as a 35-year-old father of 2, I had a 7-year-old, almost 8, and a 4-year-old. It was kind of a scary time. I'm a young kind of husband, wife. I got this family, and there's all these questions, there. And I just remember all the time, I was reading through emails and different things, studying my disease and all that, but I kept seeing Jeremiah 29:11. It was everywhere, and obviously it's a fairly famous verse, but I'd never really read it like that. I probably had read the verse many times in college, but it wasn't something that stuck to me. But for some reason, it kept popping up. So I went and read the verse, and I was like, wow, he put that there for me, no doubt. And there are plans, and he's going to prosper me, and I have faith in that. And I know that I never really felt despair or felt sorry for myself or anger. I kind of just felt like, all right, this is my story. How are we going to fight this and get to turn the page to the next chapter of my life? And I know that peace wasn't anything from me. That was peace that he gave to me, and the strength to go through it and continue really just basically living my life, the same way I would without the disease. Going through treatment for 6 months of chemo and then a little break and then 18 days of radiation. While it's taxing, it was really rarely did it stop me from doing what I, continue to do every day.
And that fight, I know football is really, really important to you, and training kids is really important to you. Why are athletics and football so important to you?
For me, football is the greatest game in the world. I mean, you can basically go through all of life and games of football. You're gonna, have to learn to work with, teammates. You're gonna have to, learn to go through a lot of physical, mental adversity, and you're gonna have to learn to bounce back from these things. I mean, either that or, some people will fall off to the wayside and not play the game. But those that stick through it, I mean, they're gonna, become better leaders, better people, moving through life. And, ultimately, it's a game, and, I'm as competitive as any person is there, probably to a fault. I've got a little better over time, but at the end of the day, it's a game to make these young men and women, whatever their sport is, better people, and that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've been lucky to coach with you that last year, and I've been around you training kids and stuff. Tell me a little bit. I've seen you coach and seen you bring Christ into your coaching. Tell me about the combination of Jesus and football and Jesus and training, and why that's so important to you.
I think it's important because Jesus kind of, your faith and that kind of stuff, you can mix it in. I'm not necessarily an over the top kind of faith person. I'm more of an example kind of person, and I hope that the kids see that in me. But it's kind of a bridge, as a coach, you're trying to develop young men and young women to be these better people. And, I think with, being able to incorporate Jesus and his examples and his teachings and, especially his examples, and how he lived a perfect life, and kind of tie that into sports and develop, whole people. It's great. I mean, if you have a great athlete, they're probably going to always be great. Are they going to be, a good person, and how are they going to progress, moving forward? Yeah.
And final question, Coach. Thank you again for doing this. What is your message to kids and or parents that are going to watch this?
I think my message for parents would be, enjoy the time that you have with your kids as they're doing these things. Try to make available, if they want to do these camps and these things, do everything you can in your power to do that. I mean, especially if they're encouraging. I'm not saying, be over the top, but if they really want to do it, try to let them have, live those dreams, and they're only going to get, a certain amount of time to be at whatever age they are and experience these things. I mean, I know for us, I like to turn a lot of our camps and our trips on, you kind of combine them. The memories and kind of the travel part of it, maybe some of the sights you see, and, the laughter and, meals and just things you do every day. It's kind of ends up being, most of our vacation, and so it's, I would just say that it goes fast. I mean, I know I have one at 16, and he's about to be a junior. It just seems like yesterday, he was being born. So, my other one's 12, and just like that, they're going to be gone. So enjoy that time with them. For the kids, I would say my message is always, pretty much the same with kids. Control the things that you can control. I mean, I always tell them effort and attitude. I mean, there's nothing that stops you, unless you're injured, from giving 100% effort all the time and carrying the right attitude with you. It's going to go far, not in just any sports, but in life. Like I said, I've coached a lot of good athletes, but my favorite kids to coach are kids that have this talent, and also just, give you 100% effort all the time. They have a positive attitude all the time. I know they're hard to find, but when you get those guys, you really do realize how special they are. I guess the other thing I would say for kids, I have two of them, so time management would be one of them. If I have to be a parent for a second, it's difficult as parents, to be able to manage your time. But for kids, when you got summer coming up here, you get this time off. And I know you get on the video games, you listen to your music, and you're on your devices, but you're going to get the feeling at some point when you're doing that, wow, I've been doing this for a while. And at that point, it's probably a good time to get up and move around and do something else, instead of falling into I'm just going to stay here and, and stay on this device, whatever. Get out and, see the outside a little bit and enjoy the fresh air.
I do have one more question for you. I didn't intend to, but it came to my mind just then as you were talking. You've given a ton of time to KidFit, and you've given a ton of money to KidFit. Why is KidFit exciting to you, and why are you giving so much to it?
I think the biggest thing for me, I've always been kind of, I've been obsessed, people will say, with, combines, numbers, training, different types of training. It's a passion I've always had to want to, give back to the kids. I've seen so many kids you know, when I started kind of the strength program at the middle school, was that I watched kids that were trainers that are now sitting on, you know, full rides on Division I football schools. You know, several of our players have full rides, and these, you know, kids worked hard, they trained hard, and, you know, I just like to think if you can put that kind of bug in the ear about the kind of work it takes when they're young and they continue on. I've seen the fruits of it, and just to see kids maybe even that are not as good at athletes, but to watch them start to, you know, become a little bit faster and become a little bit stronger, and, you know, the confidence that goes with that, you know, I just think that that's going to carry on, you know, throughout life, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've seen a few, you know, that have injuries, you know, that have come back from injuries, and you're kind of questioning, you know, hey, am I going to be back to the same person I was? But, you know, after a few months of training, they're, you know, better than they were before. And, you know, like I said, again, that confidence is just, you know, something that it's hard to, you know, get with something else.
Yeah. That's awesome, Coach. Thank you so much for all you do for KidFit. Thanks for doing the interview, and just God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, there we go. There you have it, Keith Rose. You can hook up with him at Instagram. He's get_2_elite. Again, he's Lynchburg, Virginia, Liberty Christian Academy Bulldogs. And I just thank you, Coach Keith, for taking the time to do this interview. Thank you.